in terms of like thinking about stablecoin finance, Circle's been thinking about it for close to a decade.
I don't imagine that these other bureaucracies, the other countries that issue their own currencies are just going to bend the knee.
What are the set of kind of competitive variables here that Circle wants to win with ARK?
Right, like, so we need like the ability to say like, look, if I make a payment to you, it's done. And we would like to achieve that payment finality in less than a second, ideally.
Welcome back to the Rollup.
This is your home to learn from the biggest guests, the brightest minds at the tip of innovation.
Our goal is to help spread the collective knowledge of everyone in our community.
We are breaking crypto out of its echo chamber and taking it to the real world.
All right, we got Nikhil in the back. Let's get him up. Let's talk all things Circle, ARK, and more. Nikhil, good to have you on, and thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, good to see you guys.
Indeed, a lot going on. There's a lot going on in this space, notably with Circle, with ARK, with payment chains, Hyperliquid's USDH. It's just, it's moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Lots to cover, but first we'll just love a quick intro, man. It's the first time that we've met you.
Yeah.
What do you do at Circle? What is your what is your favorite thing to do in crypto? What's your background? Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'm happy to spend 2 minutes on it. I am Chief Product and Technology Officer. So in simple words, it means I run the product engineering data teams at Circle. I have been here, this is my 4th year at Circle. So I joined in early 2022. I came to Circle to work on stablecoins because I thought they were the most interesting piece of technology as I was changing jobs. Before this, I was at Meta. If you've ever worn those Ray-Ban sunglasses with cameras in them and audio, that's my project. So I used to run all AR glasses at Meta. And when I was done with that, I wanted to work on something that had more scale. And I think stablecoins were just super interesting because, there was nothing that I could obviously see that had that was not going to scale to every internet user. And so it's just like, it was just magical. Like I like things that scale massively. Early in my career, I was at YouTube. I used to run YouTube Music. I used to run YouTube Gaming. I started a lot of those projects. And again, like, I love things that are on the internet, off the internet, by the internet. And like, I think like in 2009, like when I would tell people we were going to watch games on YouTube, they would be like, why don't they want to just play them? I was like, no, they want to play them and they want to watch them. And so, but that format only exists on the internet. Like, I think if you are like offline and you're used to watching cable TV, you don't understand it. You're like, what is this? And so for me, stablecoins are the same. Like, look, it's a superpower. Like anywhere in the world, if you have USDC, you have a dollar bank account. And I think as Americans, we don't quite comprehend how much of a superpower it is. But for the rest of the world, it is a magical experience to be able to earn 6% yield on your USDC. So not only can you have a dollar bank account, you can earn dollar yield on your bank account and not pay intermediaries fees. So as a tool of financial empowerment, it's massive. As a tool, as like, hey, this is a massive upgrade to the internet. Like I said, I was at Google in 2005. I've been working on the internet for basically my whole career. And so I love the internet. So anything that makes the internet better, I'm in. So on crypto, like I read the first paper in 2009 when it first came out. I have photographic memory of reading it. I have a master's in computer science. My first distributed systems class was CIS 675 at the Ohio State University, and they teach you about the Byzantine general problem. And you're told it's not solvable. And then this paper comes out in 2009, and all it says is like, look, if you create the right incentives, and within 6 pages, the answer is pretty obvious. And if you're a theorist in distributed systems, you're like, what? That is not possible. And then as like most people are in this space, you sort of like invest in Bitcoin, you sort of buy into Ethereum, you sort of buy into the dream a little bit. And so did I. And yeah, the idea of like Bitcoin was amazing to me. The idea of a world computer was amazing to me. The idea of stablecoins is amazing to me. So I've had a long journey getting here, and I think it's just a really exciting time to be working on it because everybody's now interested in it. Like you said, like it's one thing to be interested in it yourself; it's another to be when everybody else thinks it's a cool idea too. So,
pretty fascinating just to see the distributed system problem, like you said. Like it's almost an exercise in patience and practice and seeing it out, and it's probabilistic, right? It works a little bit in theory, and then just over time that answer gets more and more lindy, and it's like, okay, well, I guess over time that thing this paper is actually right.
Yeah, I mean, the paper is not obvious at all. When you first read it, you're like, it's not supposed to work, and like Bitcoin is not supposed to work, and then it just worked, and then it kept working, and then at every time you would like wonder, you're like, hey, is it going to work more, and is this going to end? And like even today, you have people questioning it. So yeah, I mean, there is no sound theoretical way of like achieving consensus. You can only do a statistical solution. So here we are. But
yeah. Well, Nikhil, there's a lot going on in the stablecoin space on chain right now. You know, just an example from this week, a team, 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗵𝗵, teamed up with Athena to basically launch the first L2 stablecoin native to a chain.
Right.
You have this Hyperliquid USDH governance battle ongoing, which Circle is obviously firmly a part of this. And then just in the last 2 weeks, we saw the launch of a lot of these kind of payments chains. So we had quite a few different things to touch on. Notably, one from your side of things is ARC. So yeah. ARC is the Circle payments chain. I'm just curious about the origin of ARC. How long has Circle been working on this? Why was this decided to launch now? Like, how did this whole thing come together?
Yeah, listen, like Circle launched USDC 7 years ago. And so in terms of, so if it launched 7 years ago, people working on it 2 years prior to that. And so just in terms of like thinking about stablecoin finance, Circle has been thinking about it for close to a decade. The company itself is 12 years old, but thinking about stablecoins is almost a decade old. In all of that time, there were many discussions about like whether Circle should have an L1 or an L2 for that matter. And like the timing never felt right because look, we're a customer-focused company. Like we want to make sure that our customers are getting what they want from us. With the passage of Genius, I think it is a particular moment in time. I think we are about to see a significant rewrite of financial infrastructure around the world. And so we were like, all right, like if we want like all of this financial infrastructure rewritten, what do we need? And I'll give you just a small example. Last year, we were onboarding a partner with 10 million wallets, and this was a large partner. And we went to 𝗵𝗶𝗰𝗵 and the cost for doing that for us was like over $100 million. And so we didn't know what to do. And like eventually we sort of like struck a deal with the foundation and like, we'll keep, I won't name names, but like it was just a incredibly difficult thing to do. And so now if we are to say like, look, there's going to be this massive rewrite of this financial infrastructure and we have to onboard, let's not say 5.5 billion people who are on the internet, but let's just say 1 billion people on the internet. What do we need? And so we think we need 3 things. We need like payment finality, right? Like, so we need like the ability to say like, look, if I make a payment to you, it's done. And we would like to achieve that payment finality in less than a second, ideally. We want to make sure that gas is payable in a stable coin, and we're starting with USDC. And saying like, look, you don't have to rely on like variable token values to sort of like for gas payment. And the third thing is we need configurable privacy. And so configurable privacy, because most people are very uncomfortable with the idea that their wallet balances are fully visible to everybody on chain. The fact that they're transacting with other people are fully visible. How much they're transacting is fully visible. So if you want to bring on big B2B flows, consumer flows, even, like I'm sure both of you don't want the world to know, like, what your bank balances are, and like your custodian is giving that benefit to you. So how do we solve all of that? And so for these, I mean, those 3 things, those 3 features being core, and then the timing, like, is like, look, it's the same thing you've said, which is there's all of this activity in the market and there is a lot of interest, and that interest makes sense. I don't think it is fraught, because everybody understands, like, if you are a developer today trying to start a new app and it's going to be a financial services app, A, you can build on stablecoins and you can skip a bunch of steps, and then B, you can now go after a global audience, right? Like, so if you are a user, and the user benefits, because if you're a user any part of the world, now all you need is a browser. So 5 billion users can now access the same financial services that you and I can sort of experience sitting in the United States. So that is just such a powerful thing. We need a chain to be able to do that. That's why we're building one. Ours is not going to be the last one that gets built. There are going to be many, many that get built. And the existing ones will also thrive. So, yeah.
And I think as you start to proliferate USDC further, you built a custom chain that is specifically purpose-built for USDC. One thought that crosses my mind is that, the US is currently pushing stablecoins hard. You mentioned Genius. The Treasury Secretary Bessent has also said 3 billion, trillion, we're talking trillions here, in stablecoins by 2028. What do you think happens to the other currencies around the world? Like, people are understandably so going to switch to stablecoins. They're going to get access to dollars and even yield on those dollars. I don't imagine that these other bureaucracies, these other countries that issue their own currencies are just going to bend the knee. I'm just curious. This hadn't really crossed my mind before, but what do you think those other countries do with those other currencies once those citizens start to transition to a dollar-based economy, and probably a stablecoin dollar-based economy?
Introducing Extended, exclusively on Starknet, a next-gen perps trading platform live today. With 50-plus trading pairs from crypto to TradFi, you get the best experience on-chain today. Deposit in the community vault for attractive returns, EMV compatible, and engage in unified margin, spot trading, lending, and perps trading.
What we have built is infrastructure, right? Like, for the dollar. That same infrastructure can be used for any currency anywhere in the world. So going back to my point about that, look, we have this infrastructure. If you are a developer today building financial services, if you're a company building like financial services, if you are a government who wants to stand up financial services, how are you going to start? Like, you should start with an on-chain solution, right? So I think it's kind of, I liken it to how, like, the internet first came to the US and then it sort of spread to the world, and then it thrived in the rest of the world. Like, the first decade of 2000s, like, I think the internet was a very US concept, right? Like, you had Google in the US, you had then Facebook in the US, and like all of these other big, Yahoo was in the late 90s, was a big deal. And it was a very US focused infrastructure, very US focused internet economy. But I want to say, like, after 2010 all the way to now, like, there was the rise of China, there was the rise of other countries who have like large internet, large user bases of internet, and they got the same apps, and sometimes they got better apps, right? Like, I think, like, on messaging, they got, I would argue that, like, the rest of the world got better apps than we did, and now we have really good apps as well. So I think of it as the same thing. I don't think of it as like currency dominance. I think of it as like, look, sort of distribution of this infrastructure, and a lot of times what we do in the US is sort of show the world how it is done, and then a lot of the world copies it, and sort of like localizes it to good effect, right? And I think that has been sort of what the US has invested in all these years in globalization, saying like, look, we do things a certain way where it makes sense for the world to do things the way the US does it, and that's good for us and it's good for the world. And I think stablecoins are the same thing. Like, I think it's good for us, it's good for the world. But different countries will come at it like at different pace. And maybe Scott Bessent's right that, like, we will have 3 trillion in like stablecoin money, but look, there's M2 supply, which is north of 20 trillion.
Yeah.
So I think like it's still a small percentage of like the dollars in the world, right? Like, and so I think we have a long way to go. I think we're in like 99 internet or 2002 internet, and like trying to imagine the future, and it's very hard to imagine 2025.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's just no way.
Yeah, and I appreciate that kind of connection to your previous experience, building out a lot of the internet, just early stage things from YouTube all the way through into now internet money. When you've now that we understand like the global scale of what's possible here with stablecoins, I think that the entire world has really woken up to that. I'd like to draw a couple parallels to your work in the previous era, let's call it Web 2, into the current era, where right now there's a lot of pushback from Ethereum people as to why these payment chains didn't launch as L2s, why they launched as L1s. And so I'm curious if you can draw any parallels to the early internet days where network effects or the way that certain things were built out or decided had a lasting impact on the future of certain companies or entities, or really just, answer the question of why build ARK as an L1 and not as an L2 on Ethereum?
We can do both. So maybe I'll start with the analogy, and I don't think we have to go all the way back to early Web 2 days. I think we can just look at GPUs and CPUs and AI workloads. You can run a matrix multiplication on a CPU, but over the last 5 years, 7 years, we have realized that running those computations on GPU is much more valuable. It's much more efficient. And so you can argue that we were running these computations on CPUs before, and then we created these very custom architectures for AI computation, which is why NVIDIA is such a big company. Google has TPUs. There are others, sort of our ARM has an architecture in the market. So as markets mature, markets do start off building something that totally horizontal, and I think it may be the case that that we started off in chains being completely horizontal. Look, the chains are Turing complete. You can run any computer program on it. But when you look at payments, you have these specific needs around payment finality. Your users don't want to hold a native token that have variability in price, and they are looking for that configurable privacy. So we don't think we can get those things by going down an L2 path. And that's why we're building an L1. We hold a lot of our USDC is on Ethereum. So I think it would be impractical for us to not support the Ethereum ecosystem. It would be the similar case for the other chains, including Solana and others. There is a ton of USDC on these chains. We connect these chains using what we call CCTP, which is our native bridge for moving USDC across these chains. Every new chain we launch, we connect onto CCTP. And so I think we cannot, I don't think the growth of our chain can come at the cost of harm to USDC, right? It has to be accretive. And I think that's our challenge, is to do that and do that well. And so I think we chose an L1 architecture because of technical choices. I think those technical choices most people will agree with. I think we should expect more custom chains based on use cases, just likening to what happened in the past. Look, you have custom architectures that do get built out. And then, and just because we've done a custom investment doesn't mean that we will not keep investing in the existing ecosystem. And we have good incentives to do that, is all I'm trying to point out. Even if you don't believe me, you should look at my incentives. We're in crypto. So you should look at my incentives as well. Our existing distribution is north of $70 billion, and that is none of that is on any Circle chain.
Yeah. Just a quick one there for you from our last 2 days on the show has been very Hyperliquid, USDH special kind of oriented. But USDC is not yet native on Hyperliquid, but has been argued by some very strong community members that, USDC has been live on chains natively on chains like Cardano, or chains like Hedera, or chains like Ripple, or kind of chains that perhaps have a lot less current, action on them, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
What is the ETA? Yeah. What is the ETA on native USDC on Hyperliquid?
So we announced it in July. Right, we said, hey, we're gonna bring USDC native on Hyper EVM.
Yeah.
And we'll also connect it to CCTP v2, which is the fast CCTP. It's gonna be soon. I cannot give you an exact date because like I don't want to put a gun to the head of my engineers. But like, look, it's going to be soon. Like we've been working with the teams. We understand there is eagerness. We announced in July. So we announced in July because we had a plan. And so we've always had a plan, and we'll get it out.
So you don't feel threatened by this USDH situation?
Look, it's a new situation. I don't think it affects USDC.
Okay.
That's my take. And the situation is constantly evolving, and it is hard to follow fully 100%. So far, my assessment is USDH will be a thing, right? Like it'll go to boat and it'll be a thing. I don't think it is consequential to the way USDC operates in the Hype ecosystem.
Got it. Maybe you just more generally, could you explain why native USDC is so important to any ecosystem? You know, in Hyperliquid specifically right now, it's going through the Arbitrum bridge contract to ultimately get to Hyperliquid. At least that's how it was working. How do you envision it working going forward once native USDC is implemented?
If you are somebody who is deploying a lot of capital, right, like on any chain for that matter, you're worried, you're calculating your risk, right? So your risk, you're assigning a risk score to that investment. And from every capital allocator that we have talked to, bridge risk is significant to them, right? Like, so it is non-trivial amount. Like it's different to sort of just rely on Circle versus rely on Circle and then like the bridge operator. And I'm sure they're good operators on the bridge, but like it goes into the risk calculus of like whoever is doing the investing on that chain. And so that's why chains want native, right? Like, chains want native for that reason. And then when we do native on the chain, we also connect it to CCTP, right? Like, so if you want to move like liquidity between Ethereum, you want to move liquidity to your chain, like from anywhere, it becomes almost instantaneous. And so for folks who care about their capital efficiency, their capital is not locked on your chain, right? So then they're more likely to deploy capital on your chain. So so reducing risk, making it so that capital can move to it very, very easily. And then like, I think like those are the main reasons folks care about. And like, then remember, we also have like all the off-chain on-off ramps. So when we do like a native implementation on a chain, you can send money to a bank account and you can get USDC on that chain. And so that is massive. I think that is one of the most difficult things to do. And you can do that, at least with Circle, you can do it in like the countries around the world. Like you can do it in Singapore, you can do it in Brazil, you can do it in the EU, you can do it in the US, and there are more countries that you can do it in. So if you're going and trying to boot up a real marketplace on your chain and you need liquidity and you need good rails. And so having a bridge on Arbitrum is not enough to be able to do that. Or having a bridge, it's a great way to start. It's a great way to get scale. It's a great way to like, go build your application and make it and get users. And then like it becomes obvious that you're going to want native. So because you want to attract this capital, you want these users, you want the capital, and then you talk, and like we'll keep doing it. We'll keep adding. There will be more announcements from us on native implementation, because like I said, all our business is not on Circle chain, is not on Arc, and it would be foolish for us to ignore that.
Yeah, Nikhil, I'm curious what your perspective is on the broader stable chain landscape, right? Like there's a number that come to mind. You got like the more tether oriented ones, Plasma Stable. Then you've got Arc, obviously oriented around Circle. And then you've got Tempo with Stripe. And then even rumors that Google is coming out with its own kind of L1 chain. When you look at this landscape, do you see these things as having geographical distribution edges? Do you see this landscape of being different types of countries or different types of user bases that make an edge? Is it a tech differentiator? Is it a distribution via payment processing systems and POS systems and the App Store? Like, when you're looking at the landscape, what is the differentiating factor across the board for these? What are you guys ultimately competing on with each other? Like, what are the set of kind of competitive variables here that Circle wants to win with Arc?
It's a really good question. So, like, yes, I agree. There is a lot of activity on these chains, on new chains as well. My take is that it is sort of trying to figure out, like, if there's going to be like one website or there are going to be many websites on the internet, right? Like, and there's going to be a head and then there's going to be a long tail. And I think the head may be small in that, like, there may be like a Google and a Facebook and an Instagram and maybe like 20 properties that like dominate traffic. And then there will be a long tail after that. The cost of like bringing up a chain is going down. Like, this, like, to bring up an L2 is not very difficult. But to get the incentives right, to go to market with the right application builders, to get everybody aligned on the vision, to build something that is performant, that does not go down, and to do it globally is very difficult. So that last 20%, the first 80% is easy, I think. The last 20% is incredibly hard. And I think for those teams that can solve that problem, that last 20% is where I think like the chains will be able to differentiate and will be able to solve real user problems. Like I said, like I was going to my example about those 10 million wallets. Yeah, you can go create wallets, and when you're doing it subscale, you don't care. But suddenly when you're doing it at like massive scale, you're like, I can't afford this. And like, so it's unknown like what the future will look like. I mean, I can't make a prediction. I think we will be there. There will be few others who are there. I think the existing public infrastructure will be there because that's valuable for a majority of use cases. Yeah, I don't know the future. It's very hard to predict. I wouldn't have predicted 2025. Like is how I'll say it.
Andy, I think you're on mute there.
Sorry, guys. What is the development timeline for Arc?
We should be in public testnet soon, and then we'll get out of testnet when we're ready, and that should also hopefully be soon.
Beautiful.
But we're working very aggressively on it. We acquired a team last month to help us with the consensus part of Arc, and so we have really smart folks on the team, like working on consensus. We have smart folks working on applications. We are, we'll get the public testnet out. We'll get the feedback. Hopefully, we don't get bugs, and then we'll go.
Yep. Nikhil, thank you for your time. Great work on Arc. I think the entire crypto community is excited about the rise of these more kind of payments, institutional type chains. I think the Ethereum community is upset, but happy that you guys are using EVM, if that remains. And I think that there's just a lot to come in the stablecoin race, guys.
There's a lot. Yeah. Thank you, guys. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks for coming on. See you next time, Nikhil.
Yeah.
See you soon, man. Cheers.
Yeah. Bye.